Time for a new video, and I'm going to restart my series of new releases videos. And those who have been with me on this channel for some time will know that I did a lot of new release videos in 2021 and continued that in 2022 before I had surgery, and since then I haven't done any others. So I'm going to restart now looking at 2023. Of course, we're in July, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to choose 2 new releases released each month in this year. So I'm going to leave the option open as to whether the 2 albums in January will be 1 video, or perhaps if they're long, they could well be 2 videos. Okay, and they're going to be deep dive. So the albums, I'm going to go into some depth, history, lyrics, track listing, of course, and links, any links. So I'm going to start with Turn Your Car Around by an artist that I've become very impressed with, Gaz Coombes. Now, some of you may recall that Gaz Coombes was the lead singer in the band Supergrass. Okay, so Supergrass were an English rock band formed in 1993 in Oxford, England. Now, that's because the band members all went to school together in Oxford. So, no sort of super egos here, just some young lads who got together, wanted to start a band, and they formed this band, and they then changed the name to Supergrass. Majority of the band's tenure, the lineup consisted of brothers Gaz Coombes on lead vocals and guitar, Rob Coombes on keyboards, Mick Quinn played bass and backing vocals, and Danny Goffey was the drummer, and he also did backing vocals. They were originally a three-piece, but Rob Coombes officially joined the band in 2002. The band signed to Parlophone Records in 1994, and in 1995, their first single album, their first album, I Should Coco, was released, and it was the best-selling debut album for the label, listen to this, since the Beatles' Please Please Me. So a pretty a tremendous accomplishment by these young boys. And as I say, their first album had a single on it, their 4th single, which was called All Right, and it was an international hit. The band went on to release 5 more albums, In It for the Money, which came out in 1997, Supergrass, the eponymous titled 1999 album, Life on Other Planets, which was 2002, and then Road to Ruin 2005, and Diamond Hoo-Ha, which was their last, which came out in 2008. Right, so in the description, you'll note there's a link to Supergrass's home movie, which is over an hour, and it traces basically how the band were formed and a history of the rise in popularity of the band, including video footage of them in the United States, in Europe, and Australia and Japan. Okay, and it shows how they evolved and how their success spiraled. Although, of course, they began in Oxford. Now, Gaz Coombes, who's the subject of this review, really, with his new album, he was born in England, but he lived with his family in San Francisco from around the age of, 5 up to 9, before returning in 1985 to Oxford. Okay, and Coombes played classical piano at 9, but gradually moved on to an interest in playing guitar. And his older brother, Rob, was friends with one Nick Goffey at the time. 13-year-old Gaz met and befriended Nick's younger brother, older brother, 15-year-old Danny Goffey. And Danny Goffey was and would become the drummer in this band. And Coombes, of course, was the principal writer and lead guitarist. So there we are. That is a brief history of Supercharge. And do watch that video. It's very, very worthwhile. So, Gaz Coombes, his first solo album was released in May 2012, and he played most of the instruments on the record. Matador followed in 2015, and World's Strongest Man in 2018. 2 albums that I have got on digital. And his latest, as I say, Turn the Car Around, his 4th arrived in January of this year, 28 years after the Supergrass debut. So there's a longevity in this man, and that reflects on his talents. Turn the Car Around is a nod, apparently, to the Supergrass reunion that followed the 2018 album, World's Strongest Man. And both World's Strongest Man and Matador find Coombes in a reflective, meditative mood. And that was said by a critic. And albums that were a contrast, really, compared to the cheerfulness of Supergrass. The new record is more free-like in its delivery, but Coombes remains a bit of a rocker, and the album is adventurous and a must listen with plentiful things to admire. And of course, going on to the album itself, it features additional instrumentation from members of Gaz's live band, whose title is Garo Nahulakian. What a mouthful. Nick Fowler and Pinny Gurr are the 2 members of that band. And the album also sees Coombes reuniting with his live band vocal trio, the Roxys. And that's a nickname given to them by one Neil Rogers, producer of Bowie's album Let's Dance. And they shared a bill with Rogers on the Later with Jules Holland show. Cameo performances appear courtesy of William J. Healy and Rides Los Colbert. And Coombes shares co-production duties with long-term collaborator Ian Davenport. And in the description down below, you can link on an interview with Gaz Coombes on Breakfast TV in the UK in January of this year. And there are audio links to all the tracks on the album. And so that's for your pleasure. Now, turning to the track list for this album, I'm going to go through the tracks, most of them, make a few points about them. It kicks off with Overnight Trains. There's a haunting piano intro before Gaz's vocals, very choral and classical feel to it, vibes that drift into the slow rhythmic beat. Don't Say It's Over follows, and it floats in with almost a visual psychedelic haze. Dedicated to Gaz's wife, very soulful. I love the mix of the guitar with the synths, creating an emotional connection. Track 3 is Feel Loop, brackets Lizard Dream. The clean groove beats with that roughed guitar sound. And then a particular standout, Long Live the Strange. It's got a glammy stomp-like feel. It's a love song about longevity and uniqueness in his relationship with his wife. And that's what I think anyway. The bridge in the song takes us on another guitar frenzy. And then we have Not the Only Things, which is what I would say is a lengthier track, over 5 minutes. And it's another song about his wife and his kids. A gentle guitar strums in, which is a little folky in style before the resonating synths and drums beat and transport you inside Gaz's inner feelings about his family and how this part of his life helped him survive harder times in his musical journey. That's my opinion, of course. You might beg to differ. The song expands into a kaleidoscope of sound that hugs you with a slow, funky arrangement with strings. And then we move on to the title track, Turn the Car Around, a reminder of the past with Supergrass, perhaps, memories both joyful and anxious. Continuing the track list, This Love, very impish, this song. It's a love song. And then a real standout, this one, Sonny the Strong. It's a bit of a pop epic, and I think it's about the boxing world heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston, who was allegedly murdered by the mob after he threatened to expose them regarding fixing the fight with Muhammad Ali. Or was it perhaps just a death by heroin overdose? Or was it drug dealers, perhaps, who felt Sonny was an informant to the police? Whatever, it brings the sadness and regret to the fore. And one critic stated it's one of the best things Gaz has ever done. The piano starts the somber mood as Gaz tells the tale. The guitar is heard alongside authentic boxing commentary. And I suspect it was the demolition of Floyd Patterson by Liston in 1962, or maybe the second fight in 1963. Now, I'm going to read the lyrics. I've also got two links to the two fights that Liston had with Floyd Patterson. The first in 62, when he was the challenger, and in 1963 he was champion, and Patterson wanted a rematch. And you can watch those black and white videos, which I think help a little bit with the perspective of these lyrics that I'm going to read for this Sonny the Strong song. So here we go. There will be, of course, a slide with these lyrics so you can peruse them at your leisure. Sonny the Strong paid over the odds. Nobody could hear the call of his pain. He was already aching, so many scars from a lonely life in and out of the bars. He had a fire raging inside, the only way that he could survive. But it took all his faith until he soon became the champion, the unknown king. Now at the top, his life was never the same, when all he could hear was the call of his name. He wanted love, but it lost him all the time. Well, it's hard to find when your love lies bleeding. Oh, then the fame comes and they don't want to see you. He fought with his demons, the money and the mob. The hole he was in, but that was a fight that he couldn't win. Sonny the fighter went over the top, traded gloves for a rifle, then they sent him to war. It was a deal that cost him so much more, because it's hard to fight when your friend's bleeding. You know when the game's up, when there's no entertainment, just left with his demons, the fatherless child. The outcasts within, well, that was his fight, that he couldn't win. So after that emotional roller coaster, we come to the final track on the album, which is called Dance On. It's a 5-minute pop epic, and a critic that I read suggested that it was a sort of hint at Bowie's type of music. Very dreamy pop ballad, and I could hear a little bit of Bowie there. Overall, though, this is an album that I think you will grow to love the more you play it. This a young man, he's now in his 40s, I guess, and he is making interesting music. He's developed his style. He's full of ideas, and we are not listening to that sort of Brit pop punk that emerged at the beginning of the Supergrass uh, uh, recordings. Get to look at those links, and you will get a greater context with regard Sonny the Strong for certain if you watch the fights. So that's my lot. All the links will be in the description, and that's my first new release. Came out in January of this year, and it's Turn the Car Around by Gaz Coombes.